Very good evening to you. Our topic of discussion today is about service innovation and service design innovation. So, this presentation is prepared along with key crucial insights from the Manchester Business School. So, it says service innovation means changing the way you serve your customers to create greater value for them and deliver more revenue for your organization. If you remember, in this same module, we've spoken about process innovation, spoken about product innovation. So it seems quite natural as a progression to now talk about service and service design innovations. These are some notable service innovations across industries. eBay doesn't exist anymore, but Amazon does. It's a radical service innovation. Facebook, a service innovation. LinkedIn, a service innovation which helps connect and communicate uh, between different professionals. The Bangalore Central Mall, so this is quite interesting, and I happen to observe this service innovation. Today, as the entire world is in a state of lockdown thanks to the COVID-19 virus, Bangalore Central Mall offers you the service of virtual shopping, placing orders and getting delivery all completely from your mobile phone. Urban Clap, I'm sure you would have heard of India's #1 home services provider with 30 lakh plus customers. We shall do a case study based on this today as well. Why is innovation important to services? Because you have to understand, for private services, could be our Facebook, could be our LinkedIn, could be our Urban Clap. There's a lot of competitive pressure. Liberalization, the entire world is now a global marketplace. So it allows for new competition to enter into the marketplace. So the best example you can take is with food delivery aggregators. You have Swiggy, which is an Indian-born brand, but then it started facing a lot of competition from the likes of Zomato, which is a global brand, Uber Eats, which is a global brand, Food Panda, yet another global brand. So as they innovate, they would not be able to suppress competitive pressure. Then you look at public services. You need to save costs. You need to respond to new demands of society. So the good example of public services is your electricity services, water services. These need to save costs. These need to innovate in their own way. So today you can pay the electricity bill, the water bill on several different payment platforms. Thereby, for all services, incremental services, disruptive services, competition becomes a major uniting factor. Additionally, service quality is declining. There is polarization or dichotomy of services for the rich and poor. Loss of public service. Sometimes there could be lack of service employment as well. There are new information technology based service innovations which are coming to the fore. So, keeping this in mind, innovation is extremely crucial for service providers regardless of private, public, incremental, or disruptive providers. Really quickly, the classic view of services before in the past was that it was unproductive, especially the public services where the demand is more political in nature. Professional services simply feed themselves, they're overprotected, are of no use to the general public. But post-industrialization, you started getting superior services as affluence and the economic wealth started to increase. There is demand for not just consumer services, but also business to business services. So there are new problems, there are more challenges as society started becoming knowledge based. The deindustrialized view of services was that it's a burden on other sectors, it's a burden on the labor market, it's a burden for private service providers. However, today, services are job generators, services are contributing to overall quality of life, services are helping to coordinate between the economy and society. The deindustrialized view of services was that economic growth is based on only manufacturing based innovation. Services lag behind in use of technology and productivity. Today, there is substantial organizational innovation in services. Technical innovation, granted, maybe a little less pronounced. Services would absorb labor which are displaced by manufacturing automation. Skills, services involved low level skills, manual work. But you look post industrialization, services demand high professional, technical, and social skill based workers. Service job in the past meant low status, low wages, part time, etc. Today's service jobs are highly professional and very rewarding. So, lastly, it says economic growth was based on innovation and manufacturing. But today, this organizational innovation in services are becoming very important. So, as long as demand for goods are increasing, demand for services also are growing. Services are becoming superior and purchased by more and more people, not just the affluent class, but also the basic class. And services are getting modernized. Services are playing their part in driving economic growth. So you can see there are some schools of thought where they say certain firms are dominated by suppliers. For example, service sector based firms are dominated by only a few suppliers, textiles, agriculture, for example. Science based firms include industries such as pharmaceuticals, electronics. Large scale firms such as automotive manufacturers, FMCG, consumer durables, example. Specialized equipment producers like those that manufacture surgical equipment, machinery which are specialized to certain industries. This was actually a old school train of thought. Whereas if you look at it today, a lot of supplier dominated firms have entered into the service sector. There are personal services, there are retail services, there are public services. There are large scale organizations with service based back office work. There are transportation, information, telecom, banking, which are all become predominantly service oriented. Specialized manufacturers are providing excellent amounts of after sales and care and maintenance based services. So what you've got to understand that service innovation was driven by the application of IT, that 80% of IT based investment came from services. So you can see, take the example of good old Bangalore. There was the LPG liberalization, privatization, and globalization policy of 1981, which gave a huge stimulus for investment in the IT sector. As an end result, as we stand today in 2020, KPO, BPO, LPO, and such outsourcing based service industries predominantly have their roots in our city of Bangalore. So there are different types of services. One are called physical services, which deal with goods, infrastructure, certain technologies. Then you have person-centric services, as I told you, KPO, LPO, etc. Medicine-based services, information services. So this is not just front end, but you can also have back end jobs, data mining, data development, market intelligence, all these are information-based services. So what happens is, there's this gentleman that you see in front of you, Mr. Richard Barris. He said that when an innovator creates a new product, it first comes to market, goes through a phase of refinement, quality is improved, product is then stabilized, and the computation moves to focus on efficient production of this. So this can be also called as process innovation. You have to understand the same thing can be applied to services as well. Every service in the initial phase looks at incremental innovation, improving efficiency of existing services, looking at cost reduction. Then it looks at radical process innovation to improve not just the effectiveness of existing services, but to also expand the market and improve it. The last third phase looks at not only having existing service-based products, but developing new ones and differentiating them from others in the market. The initial phase investment is moderate. You look at the second phase, you look at higher levels of investment. Third phase is the highest level of investment. Initial phase, service industries are displacing labor. The second phase, it's not having a negative impact on it. Third phase is where services are generating employment. So in the first phase, you look at improving efficiency. Second phase, quality. Third phase, new and improved services. All right. So you can see in retail banking, maybe say initially during the 60s and the 70s, it was about automating transactions, financial records. In the 80s, it is about information systems. Today, 1990s onwards, you can see how banking has gone completely online as a service. It's fully automated. There are public information-based services. In the early 1980s, you had management accounting. You had departmental-based services, example, home loans or factory loans or machinery loans. So services from that point of time onwards, it's only been an uphill climb. So you can see banks as a vanguard. In the first stage, you looked at storing, managing, organizing financial data. Very routine services, updation of customer accounts, bookkeeping, financial statements were given. So very rudimentary services and technology were actually given during the first phase. You look at phase two. So what started happening here is you have ATM machines which started dispensing cash out of work. You started developing better back-end services and technology. But the third phase, which is the most crucial phase, now looks at complete online transaction processing, accessing customer data 24/7, offering different services such as personal investment, purchase of house, purchase of automobile, travel, payment of taxes, cash management, home banking, shopping. So you have n number of new services which have resulted as a byproduct of this third phase of service innovation. So what you've got to understand is innovation looks at delivery as something a little other than products and services, meaning there is a new term here called servuction, which looks at service innovation, product innovation sort of clubbed together. It looks at co-production of services. So new service developments, making better service designs are all slowly emerging. There are now additionally some new trains of thought where what if people don't eat in restaurants anymore and all of our consumption of external food becomes eating at home. So this is happening already thanks to Swiggy, Fasos, Fresh Menu, Zomato, etc. So services are actually substituting these products. Mobility, rather than take a bus, I can rent a Zoom car and self-drive myself. So this Zoom is sort of substituting the humble BMTC bus. Rather than washing clothes, I take it to the neighborhood laundromat or a washing machine and wash it. Rather than going to a theater or a cinema, I use Netflix, Amazon Prime, Woot, Disney, etc., and many of these services. So there is actually a hypothesis called the Gersony hypothesis, which says goods will be very soon replaced by self-service, and it's going to become a really big thing in maybe say the next decade. So with this, I will conclude by saying services are also becoming highly innovative. Service innovations need to become a cornerstone of the economy. So we need to examine how the organization has to change, business model has to change, how it should be marketed, because these innovations are going to blur boundaries and generate a whole new revenue stream for the economy. With this, I end my talk on service innovation. Thank you so much and have a great day.